All right, let's dive right into this explainer. For decades, molecular biology has fundamentally been an observational science. Scientists would spend years, literally years, just looking, trying to map out the microscopic building blocks of life through really tedious, painstaking experiments. But today, we are witnessing an actual medical miracle. We're shifting the entire field from passive observation to predictive, engineering-driven medicine. And at the absolute center of this revolution is a breakthrough that honestly sounds like science fiction, but it is very much our new reality. So I want you to imagine something for a second. Think about the unprecedented stakes of cancer research, where every single day counts for millions of patients around the globe. Now ask yourself, what if we could cure cancer 70% faster? We're not talking about some marginal, incremental improvement here. We are talking about fundamentally compressing the timeline of human suffering and scientific discovery. But to understand how we actually achieve that kind of crazy speed, we kind of need to introduce the villain of our medical documentary. It's a concept known in the scientific community as the dark proteome. Before this breakthrough, roughly 26% of human proteins were essentially locked in the dark. They were completely unmapped, practically unsolvable puzzles. And because proteins are the fundamental machinery of life, their structures literally dictate how diseases like cancer and Alzheimer's take hold. This blind spot was a massive roadblock. It was like an ancient puzzle locking away life-saving cures in the dark. The contrast between the past and present is just staggering. Pre-AlphaFold, mapping a single protein's 3D structure relied on these traditional, grueling experimental methods like X-ray crystallography. That process could take months or even years of agonizing laboratory work just to map one single structure. It was expensive, it was slow, and it was incredibly resource-heavy. But the post-AlphaFold reality? It's literally night and day. We are now generating highly accurate predictions in mere minutes. All right, so that brings us to section 1. Enter AlphaFold 3, the macromolecular orchestrator. I like to think of this AI as a cognitive forklift. It's lifting the back-breaking computational cargo so scientists can actually get to work engineering cures. But from a technical perspective, how does it do that heavy lifting? Well, AlphaFold has evolved. In AlphaFold 2, the architecture relied on something called the evoformer, which solved the single-chain protein folding problem. But AlphaFold 3 completely swapped that out for a new architecture called the pairformer. This upgrade is huge because it allows the AI to model complex pairwise interactions between amino acid residues. Basically, it doesn't just look at one isolated protein, it looks at how proteins interact with DNA, RNA, and other small molecules. And finally, it uses a really innovative diffusion-based generative model to directly compute the exact atomic coordinates. It takes all the noise and distills it into perfect multimolecular clarity. The result of that architectural shift is absolutely awe-inspiring. By leveraging these high-throughput AI databases, the number of unsolved human proteins plummeted from 5,027 down to just 29. I mean, wow. Let that sink in for a second. Over 5,000 unsolvable, invisible biological targets reduced to barely 24. When we break down the data of this biological revolution, the leaps are massive across the board. Human protein structural coverage jumped from 48% to a staggering 76%. That dark proteome residual we were talking about earlier shrank from 26% down to just 10%. And highly accurate models sharing core genetic similarities grew from 31% to 50%. We are quite literally turning the lights on inside the human body. But the sheer scale of this whole thing is what makes it a true global game changer. Over 200 million. That is the number of mapped protein structures currently sitting in the democratized open-access AlphaFold database. DeepMind shared this globally, and as of 2024, it is actively supporting over 500,000 research projects around the world. It's fostering innovation everywhere, giving scientists in developing nations the exact same cutting-edge tools as those in elite, well-funded labs. Moving right along to Section 2, curing cancer 70% faster. So what does this actually mean for us? Well, we're shifting from basic biological mapping into a highly advanced phase called structure-based drug discovery. This is where those 200 million protein maps stop being abstract data and start translating into real, tangible therapies for human patients. In a monumental milestone achieved in 2023, AlphaFold 3 was used to successfully identify novel drug targets specifically for cancer. By using rapid virtual screening algorithms to map out exactly how molecules interact with these targets, researchers reduced the chemical screening time by an astounding 70%. What used to take years of grueling trial and error in the lab is now being simulated and accelerated by AI. This is that cognitive forklift in action, lifting the heavy research burden so we can get life-saving therapeutics to clinical trials significantly faster. Okay, let's take a breath and keep our feet on the ground. Section 3, Guardrails and Grounded Reality. As enthusiastic as we are about all this, AI is not a magic wand. Maintaining our scientific objectivity means acknowledging the current limitations. First off, proteins are not static. Predicting their dynamic movements or multiple conformational states is still a major hurdle. Second, experimental validation in a real lab is absolutely necessary to prevent hallucinations, which is where the AI confidently predicts a structure that doesn't actually exist in nature. And finally, mechanistic interpretability studies, like one called AlphaInterp, have revealed that AlphaFold 3 behaves a bit like an advanced fold recognition system. It still relies heavily on deep evolutionary data, or phylogenetic diversity, to anchor its predictions. Which brings us to Section 4, the era of personalized medicine. Even with those limitations we just talked about, we are standing on the precipice of an incredible new frontier. AlphaFold 3 paves the way for truly tailored therapies. Instead of generic treatments, we will be modeling patient-specific protein interactions to create drugs customized to your exact biological makeup. Beyond that, we're looking at synthetic biology, routinely designing completely novel proteins from scratch for things like biofuels and sustainable materials. And critically for global health, this synergy between AI and biology gives us the ability to rapidly develop drugs for infectious diseases, massively enhancing our pandemic preparedness. It's a total game changer. So we started this explainer with a question about cancer, and I want to leave you with one more. As AI continues to unlock the deep molecular secrets of life, effectively mapping the unmappable and seeing the invisible, what previously unsolvable disease are we going to cure next? The transition from observation to engineering is here, and the dark proteome is finally coming into the light. Thank you so much for exploring the AlphaFold 3 breakthrough with me today. Stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.